Hello everybody, this is Purge, bringing you guys a patch overview video. I hope you are excited. Sorry again, I haven't made videos in a while, but here we go. We're going to get back to this. I streamed a bunch yesterday. I got like 2 or 3 games out of it, which I will upload. The Twitch exporter is currently broken or overwhelmed or something, so unfortunately I can't really get those videos from Twitch to YouTube just yet, but very soon you'll have some more videos and we should have some more time. So there's a new patch. This one's not super big, so this video should not be very long, hopefully not an hour and a half, but there's a lot of cool things in the patch, and I'm on a web browser right now, and I've expanded it. You guys can see the URL. Just go to dota2.com, and you can very easily find this. So there's a new hero in the game. His name is Terrorblade. He is a very, very old Dota 1 hero. He's been in the game quite a long time. Since I first started playing Dota 1, he was in the game. He's a hard carry, he's illusion-based, and he's pretty cool, and I'll give you guys some quick tips about him right now, since I can. Since the patch isn't very long anyways, I can definitely give you guys a quick hero overview. Flavor text, don't care. Alright, first things first. His first skill is more recent. It's like 2 years old, I think, like that, which, that's so long ago, but like, it's recent, I promise. Reflection, create a double of your foe, which then attacks its original, and it slows their movement. The way this functioned last time is you'd cast an AoE, and it would create a intangible illusion of your opponents, so that you can't kill the illusions. It's not like Spectre Haunt. It creates the illusions, and they attack your opponents, and they slow them. It slows them a little bit. This was recently put in because Terrorblade didn't really have any good CC. He was basically just like a hard illusion right clicker, and he didn't have a good way to slow his opponents, so it like added a slow. He's been reworked quite a few times over the last 2 to 3 years though. His second skill, which is recently re-added, this was taken away for a while, but it kind of hurt him a lot as a hero. Conjure Image summons forth an illusion of yourself to aid you in battle. So you basically cast this spell and it creates an illusion of you. You can do a lot of mind games with it. It's not like PL's invisibility. It basically just, you cast, you do an animation, and then another illusion of yourself appears next to you. It's not like Mirror Image that Naga does. You can't dodge spells with it. You like cast an illusion. So you'd have to do it in darkness, but there's a lot of tricks that you can do with this. The most important thing about Conjure Image, I haven't looked at the numbers. I guess I can do this on my other monitor really quick. But I believe the illusion percentage is actually really high for the hero. And by that I mean it does a big percentage of your damage, actually. I believe you can only get about 2 extra illusions up at a time. Lasts 32 seconds for Conjure Image, and the cooldown is 16. So that means I believe you can get 2 images up. They last for 30 seconds, and at level 4, they do 60% damage, which is huge. So compare this to other illusion heroes. Phantom Lancer. One sec, guys. I made a mistake. I accidentally started. When I started this video, I accidentally started streaming instead of local recording, and people went on my Twitch stream. Sorry, video will be out soon. Patch video. No stream, sorry. I feel really bad, there's like a bunch of people on Twitch right now. Okay, illusions. 60% illusion damage is ridiculous. Phantom Lancer, his illusions do 25%, and that number of 25 is his base damage or his agility, basically. His base damage plus his agility. So if an illusion does 60%, it's doing over 2 times more damage per hit, which is massive. So since he's an illusion hero and his illusions hit really hard despite there not being very many of them, what you want to do is you want to build a lot of agi items. So this is items that most people don't build normally. This means Wraith Bands are pretty good, Sanjin Yasha is really good, Skadi is really good on Terrorblade. 2 items that normally are like, they're core on this guy. They really are, because the Skadi and the Sanjin Yasha give 2 things. Not only do they give more HP, they give you more agility damage. They make your illusions and your hero run faster, at least in Sanjin Yasha's case, but they also provide slows. And since, like I said before, the hero didn't have very good disables in the past, so Skadi and Sanjin Yasha were like the only ways to do it well. Reflection plus a Skadi or a Sanjin Yasha is really scary, I promise. Keep in mind that your illusions cannot proc Sanjin Yasha and your illusions cannot proc Skadi. Unless they're melee. If they're melee illusions, I don't think that works. At one point it may have. But basically, only your hero can do the Skadi or the Sanjin Yasha, if I'm not mistaken, the slows. But this isn't a huge issue because of your third skill. Your third skill is called Metamorphosis. It basically transforms you into a ranged hero for a period of time, gives you bonus damage. It used to give you bonus HP. I'm not sure what it's doing right now. If I take a look at the website, duration, base damage, that's it. So very low mana cost of 50. The cooldown is 140. In some ways, this is like your ultimate because you pop it. It lasts for up to 52 seconds at level 4. Basically, in a team fight, what you want to do is you want a Metamorphosis to turn into rage mode. You immediately conjure image so that you make a ranged illusion instead of a melee one. Because keep in mind, if you cast conjure image, it duplicates what you are. So you go range mode, you conjure an image, and you start pushing. And then later, like 16 seconds later, you conjure another image. And all of a sudden, you have your Metamorphosis up, your ranged form with like 80 extra damage. And then you summon 2 illusions that do 60% of your damage. And then that is essentially, if you only buy agility items, you're basically increasing your damage from 100% to 220%. So you're more than doubling your damage output and your ranged. It's actually a pretty cool carry. I think he's really fun. His ultimate, weird ultimate, it doesn't make a ton of thematic sense for what he's sitting out with his items. There's a lot of play by Ice Frog in the past to do tricks with like life drain to make Sunder like make more sense. But right now it's just gonna stay where it is. He's back to his old carry glory before they gave him a bunch of life drain and weird things like that. But Sunder, you basically exchange your health for your opponent's. It has a limit, so if you're at 1 HP and you Sunder your opponent, he doesn't go to 1 HP. It's like 20% at the lowest, I think, if I check Play Dota over here. Yeah, 25% hit point minimum at level 1, down to 15% at level 3. The casting range is really short, it's 250, but there's a lot of cheese builds that people do where they'll farm like a Dagon on Terrorblade, and they'll lower their HP to creeps, and they'll run into melee range of somebody. Somehow they'll get in range. They'll cast Sunder, and then they'll dag on them, and it's like a instant kill. You can also use like Sunder and Huskar. You can use Sunder on allies as well if you guys didn't know. So if your ally is really low and he's about to die, you can swap your health with his. Usually this isn't worth it because you're playing a hard carry and losing all your HP is not a good thing, but Sunder's a pretty cool skill, and the hero's really fun. He's pretty simple. I think it's very easy. This is like an old hero, so you have to understand like the old heroes were very simple in design usually, but there's something really beautiful about that, I think, because they're a lot easier to explain. They're very easy to play. But you can still get into them because they're a little different. You can get a Diffusal Blade on this hero if you want to, but you have to keep in mind that only your melee conjure images will mana drain. Once you go into range form, only your primary hero will mana drain, your illusions will not. They'll still get the bonus agility damage, and we'll see later that Diffusal Blade did get agility buffed, but it's not necessarily the best item. I dare say, with the Sanjin Yasha buffs that have happened and the huge movement speed that they give, that Sanjin Yasha is probably the best item for Terrorblade coming up in the new patch. Scotty's still very good though, and there's definitely a couple more items that you can get now that Reflection exists because you can slow them without needing an item to do so. So that's Terrorblade. He's a really fun hero. I'll probably play him almost immediately when he comes out because I already know how to play the hero. I'm sure there's a little bit of practice stuff that I can get used to, but I promise he's really fun. Pretty solid hero. All right, this is what he looks like. This is going to be his Metamorphosis form here, and this is his regular form. He's basically the same model as Anti-Mage in Warcraft 3, which is why his weapons look slightly like Anti-Mage, but he does look a little different. I think he looks pretty sweet myself, so can't wait to play him. Let me just make sure that this is all viewable. I forgot that my webcam is blocking a lot of stuff, but... Oh, he has an Arcana item? That's kind of cool. All right, don't care. Random ability draft is in the game. This is basically a mode that's existed due to Dota 2 wear, I think. But basically, there's going to be a mode now where heroes go into a game and they all have random abilities. So this is like Enchantress's Heal. This is Pudge Hooks, obviously. This is Rot and Finger of Death. So it's kind of just a fun game. You can screw around. Something that people really liked in Dota 1. And I promise you guys will like this. It should be really fun. All right, on to the patch. Gameplay update 6.80. This patch is actually pretty small, so we won't be seeing a ton of stuff, but I'll go through it fairly detailedly since it's not too long. You now lose 1 gold per second if you haven't picked a hero after the selection timer runs out on all pick. This is just to prevent people that are waiting and all pick to counter pick at the last second because they get screwed over a little bit and it's kind of annoying basically. So it's a nice little nerf to those people that are taking forever to pick or AFK. The selection timer has increased by 15 seconds to counteract that, and the pre-creep time reduced from 90 to 75. That means there's the same amount of time. From the start of the game to the time the creeps spawn, but most of the time is now the pick selection time. So what would happen in the past, what some people would do to be huge jerks, is they would wait to pick until the creeps are about to spawn, and they would immediately pick Broodmother, because then people have picked their supports, and they've already bought their items, and they said, oh, no invis heroes, I don't need sentry wards, and then they pick Broodmother, and then they run to the lane and they don't have sentry wards because they were already running to their lane because they already spent their money. People would do stuff like that. It was really dumb. So you have an extra 15 seconds to pick your hero, but if you don't pick your hero until after that time, you are losing the selection timer. Yeah, once the game starts, once people load into the game, you are already losing gold. 1 gold per second. That's so cool. That is so cool. I really like this. You still have 75 seconds here, I believe, before creep spawn. So at max, you would lose 75 gold before the creep spawn, which isn't a huge amount, but that's an Ironwood branch or a Clarity. So Roshan no longer stops upgrading his HP damage armor at 45 minutes. That means that he is still going to be a little hard to kill in the late game. In the late game, a lot of the times what happens is that Roshan is just killed in like 10 seconds, and it kind of gives Dyer a big advantage in professional matches. So the upgrade rate is increased by 20%. This means Roshan might actually be really hard to kill late game. I'm not really sure yet. We'll find out. And the bounty is also rescaled to be less in the late game. It actually is more starting out, but it scales to be less extreme in the late game. So something to consider. Alchemists getting some big nerfs. Night vision reduced from 1400 to 800, which is huge. I didn't realize his night vision was so big, but this is a big nerf in terms of vision at nighttime. Vision is a big deal for him because if he can't see enemies, he can't throw his stun, so there's a lower chance of his roam being effective. And this is why he's getting nerfed. It's because the hero is too good for supports, because you basically charge your stun, you run in, you throw it, and you stun a guy for a huge duration, especially if you have levels. And sometimes it does a lot of damage because it's physical, you can reduce their armor, and if they don't have a lot of armor, you can oftentimes do at least like half of somebody's HP with when all you have to do is properly time your walk-in. You say, okay, I'm going to walk in 2 seconds, start the stun, you walk in, you throw it, and you click on them directly. It doesn't take much skill to do it, and it's kind of frustrating to play against. So I'm very happy he's getting these nerfs. His other nerfs are the shaking duration is reduced from 7 to 5.5. It still stuns for the full duration, but that means there's less time to throw it at full duration, basically. So this means that there's a higher chance of people panicking and throwing it earlier, or not necessarily panicking, but realizing that they don't have a chance to charge it for full duration. Therefore, it might stun for less. And something that 3 of my teammates didn't know about, but 2 of them did, it no longer continues to get stronger while it's in the air. So what would happen before is if you would throw it at like 4 seconds, if the stun didn't land for another 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds, then it didn't matter. It was still going to do a full duration stun, which I didn't think existed, but it's just a mechanic thing that people should know about, but I did not. Other people did not. Some people did. Bambo did know, but I did not. So this means that basically with those 2 nerfs together mean that it's, first of all, harder to throw it at full duration, or there's less chances. Basically, you don't have a 2-second window to throw it at full duration. You have a 1/2 second window to throw it at full duration. So much less chance of people throwing full duration stuns. And also, it doesn't get stronger while it's in the air, so people can't throw it halfway through and expect a full duration stun by the time it lands. This means Alchemist roam is going to be severely nerfed, and I really hope that this impacts Alchemist in the pro scene. We don't really pick him very much as a support, but we do know that a lot of Korean teams do like picking Alchemist, and a lot of pro teams do as well because the roam is so strong. So I'm sure we'll see less Alchemist. I don't know if this is going to completely hurt his roaming. It's going to be harder to roam with him, which means that only that higher skilled support players are likely going to do well with this hero, but other lower skilled support players are going to have a bit more trouble. So the hero is still very viable as a carry, I think, but his stun is going to be harder to land at full duration, and it's going to be a little bit less abusive. So I'm very happy for the Alchemist nerfs. Out of everything in the patch, I'm most happy about this. I already read these, by the way, twice, so you're not necessarily getting my first impressions, but I've had a bit of time to think about this. The patch came out last night at about 3 a.m., and it's about 3 p.m. for me right now. So, all right, Ancient Apparition, Ice Vortex spell, damage amplification increased. This is his second skill. It's the AoE Frosty thing. It's better at level 1. And actually better at all levels by 5, but better at level 1, which is good because most people just leave it at level 1, and Ancient Apparition isn't played very much right now. Ice Vortex duration increased from 12 to 16. This is, again, this spell, which means you could create a slow spot. You're going to be more mana efficient now since you don't have to recast it. It's a pretty good buff to Ice Vortex. And also the aura stickiness increased from 0.1 to the standard 0.5 aura value. This means that as you're walking through the Ice Vortex, if you leave the Ice Vortex, it will stay on you for 0.5 seconds longer, which means that it could be actually pretty annoying now. I'll have to play against this to see what it's like, or use it to see what it's like. But there's a good chance that you could drop a lot more Ice Vortexes in teamfights and get more out of that mana. Usually I just place them like as the nukes are about to hit and focus them like that, but you could actually very well use them. Maybe for a lot of fun as like a spacing move. You'd be like, oh, we're initiating on this guy, therefore I want to put a Vortex behind him. That way when my opponents run through it, it takes them forever to get there. That's something that you can possibly do with Ancient Apparition now. Anti-Mage, Mana Void, Radius increased from 300 to 450. This is his ulti, by the way. You click it on an opponent and it does an AoE. And also it added an AoE targeting cursor for Mana Void. I have a bet going with Steven Aosin about this. Steven seems to think this means that it's like the Split Earth of Leshrac, or the Light Strike Array of Lina, where you target the ground and it does an AoE. I told him that I think it is the Lich's Frost Nova AoE. It's an AoE that you click on opponents, like Stormbolt for Sven or Frost Nova for Lich, that does an AoE that shows it. He thinks it's the Leshrac Stun version, in which case it's a nerf to the skill. I think it's the Frost Nova version of Lich. I don't like that cursor personally, but it's definitely a lot more comprehensive and obvious what's happening. But we bet $2 that I think it's my way and he thinks it's his way, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to win $2. Keep me updated on that one. X base HP regen increased from 2 to 3. Berserker's Call duration increased across the board, so good for Berserker's Call, and cooldown is also rescaled. So it's worse at level 1, but it lasts for more time, and he also gets an extra HP regen per second, which is pretty good for Axe. It's probably not enough to make the hero viable, but it's a nice push in the right direction. Batrider attack animation time improved from 0.5 to 0.3. This is a pretty decent buff to Batrider. Blitz and Bambo immediately said that it would allow him to lane in the mid lane, because it was a little hard before. He just received a 10 damage nerf, which is pretty significant, but he can make that up with Sticky Napalm. But his animation was honestly pretty crappy, and 0.3 is a huge increase, so this means it's a lot easier for him to last hit in the early game before he gets attack speed items. So we could see Batrider in the mid lane again, which would be cool. I think Batrider's he was previously very OP, and he's been in the pro scene a very long time. But I think it's okay to see this buff. We actually like running Batrider as well, so sometimes. So I think it's pretty cool. Beastmaster, Call of the Wild Hawk duration reduced down to 60 seconds at all levels. The boar duration reduced to 60 seconds at all levels, and also it no longer destroys the previous summons on cast. This means that you could actually have 2 boars up or 2 hawks, which is pretty darn cool. I think you should definitely get this skill now. You really should have before, but I think it's a nice little buff to Beastmaster. Bloodseeker, Thirst bonus speed and damage rescaled. It does worse at level 1, but it does more at level 3, 4, and 2 actually. So pretty cool. Bloodbath now gives the full hero kill benefit instead of only half if he's within 325 AoEs. That means if he's within melee range of a hero that dies, he still gets a full heal. I think this is really good because last time I played Lion on a video when I was home in Wisconsin for Christmas, I was kill stole that one time and the Bloodseeker got half the heal and he was very mad at me. But this won't be the case anymore, so as long as he's in melee range. Brewmaster Primal Split cooldown reduced at all levels. Brewmaster being buffed quite a bit. I would love to see this hero get played. He's really good with Ags. Bristleback base damage is reduced by 4. I think the hero is still going to be played a lot, but the base damage reduction is going to hurt his 1v1 laning, which does happen sometimes in the pro scene. Broodmother can no longer leave the map boundaries. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy with this, but keep in mind this also works for Spectre and Batrider. So those heroes can't go up on like high cliffs that nobody else can get to. It's not possible anymore. They can still juke through trees. There's a lot of places to go. I wonder if this works for the areas. I'm pretty sure this works for the areas like there's water areas like on the dire off lane or the radiant safe lane, that area where the river goes. I think that means they can't fly over there anymore, which is actually a pretty big nerf for off lane Batrider, but we'll see how that impacts things. Spinweb no longer provides 200 vision, which I think is fair. Free pathing is now removed when enemies have vision over you. If you're revealed by dust and the enemy has vision over you, you will not be able to run into the trees. Interesting. I actually missed this when I first read it, but there's a couple situations where this is going to be just fine, but basically there's a lot more counters to Broodmother now. Slardar would be a counter. He gives vision of the Broodmother. You can't go in trees. Bounty Hunter is the even harder counter to Broodmother. Even something like Disruptor is a counter because you can cast Chain Lightning on him. It gives you vision for 4 seconds. It completely blocks his ability to go through trees. So Broodmother is going to be a lot less scary now. But I think this is a good thing because think about it this way. Broodmother was still useful before, maybe not in the pro scene, but he was still useful before he could go into trees. And now he can attack from trees, but won't necessarily be able to retreat into them. And the retreat part was definitely the most annoying. The attack from them is okay. It's a nice buff, but I think this is the right place for Broodmother to be. He was definitely a little annoying before. Centaur War Runner. I should really move this to the right side where there's nothing. Okay, this makes more sense. Centaur War Runner Stampede cooldown reduced, so better at level 1, which is good, and the same at level 3, and a little bit better at level 2. I don't think Centaur will still see play, but I think the hero has some maybe potential. He might get more buffs for people playing Clockwork. Hits required to kill power cogs are scaled from 3 at all levels to 2, 2, 2, 3. This is pretty good. A lot of the times when Clockwork hogs somebody right now, people just right-click and accept their fate because they're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to hit the cogs 3 times. But with help from allies, you can actually escape them now, at least if Clockwork does cog in an ally. So this could increase a lot of coordination against Clockwork, make people better against Clockwork, at least before the 3rd level. And people really don't put a lot of levels into cogs until late. This is like level 15 or level 14 that people get the 4th level of cogs. People may adjust their skill builds now as a result, but this is a pretty big investment to do that. So that means that people don't have to get a force staff to counter Clockwork. They could honestly just coordinate as a team and kill the cogs, which is really good. I think this is going to be good for coordination. Clockwork was definitely one of the best offlane heroes, so I'm really happy with this. Crystal Maiden base intelligence reduced by 3, so that's going to hurt her by the amount of 13, 26, 39 mana, which is a pretty decent amount actually. This is going to hurt her abilities to do 2 new combos at level 2, and it may force Crystal Maidens to maybe buy more Ironwood branches early, or to be a little bit more careful with their mana choices. So CM did kind of need a nerf. I'm okay with this. I play this hero all the time. Excuse me, I'm burping a lot. I play this hero all the time on our team, and she is definitely a little too good, I dare say. Darkseer Iron Shell cooldown reduced from 10 to 9. Darkseer has been getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, and finally people aren't playing him anymore. This allows you to double stack Iron Shells a bit more. Dazzle's weave duration increased from 20 to 44. That's a pretty big buff. I'm pretty sure Dazzle's going to start seeing some play soon here. Death Prophet Exorcism cooldown increased by 15 seconds, and the Silence AoE also increased. This means that she's a little bit less reliant on her ulti being OP, although she's still really good, I dare say, and her silence is a little bit better. Her silence is really good, I think. This AoE is huge. Like, silence really hard counters a lot of heroes, and I'm a little surprised we aren't seeing Death Prophet quite as much. She does still see some play. I saw her played last week, I think. Dragonite tail cooldown rescaled, so it's now 12 seconds at level 1 and down to 9 seconds at level 4. So I think this is good. The stun time duration was actually really big for Dragonite or Dragontail. You could easily stun twice in a team fight. It's a bit harder now with 12 seconds. Draw Ranger's silence is reworked. The way it works is silences all enemy units in a targeted area. It's a range of 900 and a radius of 3. That's a huge range, by the way. Duration is 3, 4, 5, 6. Totally. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the old. Excuse me. The new is releases a wave that silences and does a minor non-interrupting knockback. The AoE is 250. The distance is 900. It's a wave, by the way, so it's like a wave of terror. It silences for the same durations, but it does knockback distance. The knockback distance is inversely proportional to travel range. 350 at closest is 0 at 900. That means if you're really far away from them, it doesn't knock them back, or it knocks them back a very small amount. But if they're close to you, it pushes them away from you. And this is really important because the way that Drow's ulti works is if enemies are near you, enemy heroes are close to you, you don't get bonus agility. And previously, there was like no way to get away from them because if a Lifestealer closes into melee range of you, or any melee hero closes into melee range of you, you have to fight them. And you don't get your ulti, so you don't hit hard, and you just kind of suck. This allows you to not only silence people, but push them away from you and possibly get them outside of that range so that you can then get your agility buff, or at least run away from them a bit and try to kite, which is cool. I think it's a really cool change. It may make Draw Ranger OP. There's a lot of interesting things you could do with this, like Blink Dagger, silence people up on the cliffs or something, but I think it's a nice change. Earth Spirit has more nerfs than any other hero in the patch. Stone Remnant recharge timer is increased by 10 seconds. I'm not good at this hero. He's really high skilled to play him well, but he's also overpowered, so getting nerfed I think is appropriate. Geomagnetic Grip now does a 2, 3, 4, 5 second silence instead of a... Oh, I misread this. So the Grip, which is the pull, does the silence now, which makes the silence easier to land. That's important to notice. But the silence is very low at low levels, which is very, very good. The grip damage is rescaled. It scales better, so leveling up is now pretty good, I dare say. At least from reading this so far, you won't max this first, I dare say. Boulder Smash damage is rescaled. So this does 125 at all levels. So basically they swapped where the damage goes. Boulder Smash now does a stun. Wow, this was like literally the suggestion that was on Reddit, if I'm not mistaken. So the Rolling Boulder now does a stun, which means that it can only stun one hero, if I'm not mistaken. Does a stun instead of a silence. Okay. And the radius is also decreased for the Boulder Smash. This is pretty interesting. It also gets interrupted if disabled during the initial roll charge, which is really good. Before, that was annoying. It's like the only time to stop the roll was either to block it with your body or while they're rolling, you stun them. And they would roll so fast that it was hard to stun them during that duration. Now, if they start rolling, you can just stun them then, which is a huge nerf to the hero. He's way less evasive. But I think it's all deserved. Rolling Boulder now also gets interrupted if disabled during the initial rolling charge. Didn't I just read that? I did. The grip now kills trees along the path of a dragged allied hero. Okay. Means you can't, number one, you can't trap creeps there, I think. I assume this works for creeps as well. And you also can't trap allies. Targeting someone directly with Boulder Smash will now be blocked by Lincoln Sphere. Being able to cast, being able to cast it on Magic Immune allies, which is good. Boulder Smash used to be able to target Magic Immune allies, which is a good nerf. And well, it's fixed, so it was a bug. And the Boulder travel distance going further than intended if you use a Stone Remnant near the end of the roll. Okay. So what used to happen would be if you would start the rock, the remnant, at the start of your roll, you'd basically go a distance based on where you hit the rock. So if you put the rock at the end of your roll, you would go extra distance, basically. So basically, Geomagnetic Grip, the pull, the easy to land one, is now a silence. And the slightly more difficult land one, which is Boulder Smash, or Rolling Boulder, does that do the... Wait. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I had this wrong. The Boulder Smash is the one that you punch. So if you punch the rock, it will stun. That's the hard one to land, as far as I'm concerned. But if you land it, it does a stun. So if you land the boulder, you stun them. The rolling boulder still does a slow. So they just swap the silence and the stun. So the stun is harder to land. You can still AoE stun people with the Boulder Smash. So it's still very, very good. And it takes a lot of skill to land that. So I think that's okay. But it's harder to land the stun now. The silence is easier to land, so ganking is going to be maybe a bit easier. At least ganking like Weaver and stuff, but I think this is good. It's some nice changes. It's not an over nerf, I think. It's an adjustment. The silence is worse early, or it's a little worse early, but it's easier to land, and the stun is a bit better. It's pretty good, but it's a little harder to land. I'm not really sure how to do a skill build on him. You'd probably level based on whether you want the stun or the silence, I would guess. So I think this is a good adjustment to Earth Spirit. I'm happy with this. What are we at? Like 30 minutes right now? Whatever. And we're going to hit an hour and a half. I know it. Earthshaker base movement speed increased by 10. It's a pretty big buff. And the strength gain increased. This means at every level he has an extra 0.4 strength, which is around 10 HP on average. So by level 10, he'll have an extra 100 HP, which is pretty okay. Well, it's 900. 90 HP, I believe. Not 100. But Enchantress-based armor reduced by 1, so that hurts her a bit. I don't know if... I guess she was played in the pro scene. I'm not entirely sure if she needed the nerf, but I think it's fine, because she's probably... I think she's a good hero. Black Hole AoE increased by 25. The Black Hole cast range increased. This is pretty nice. Should be able to Black Hole from range a bit better. Faceless Void got some nice buffs. Chronosphere cooldown reduced to 80 at level 3, which I think is actually a very good buff. In the past, Faceless Void as a carry is really, really good when you have Chronosphere, and okay when you don't have Chronosphere. And that hurt him a lot in late games, because he would cast Chronosphere. If you lose the team fight, or if the team fight goes mediocre, they can just keep pushing. You would have to get an Aghanim Scepter to really reduce the cooldown before down to 60 seconds. And now 80 seconds at level 16 I think is pretty balanced, because he is largely based around Chronosphere. Chronosphere is a really good ability, but I think it's fair to make it decent at 16. You also have 100 movement speed in phase while you're in Chronosphere, which means that once you chrono, you can very easily go from guy to guy. 100 movement speed, or 1,000 movement speed is huge. Time Walk mana cost is also reduced to 90, which is a really big buff to the hero. He doesn't have a lot of mana requirements, but if you ever run into a mana drainer as Faceless Void, it's not uncommon to run out of mana to do both Time Walk and your ulti. And being forced to build something like drums on Faceless Void is really not a good thing. You really want to get like attack speed or a big damage item or a BKB. Those items are pretty important on him. So I think this is a really nice buff to him. The mana cost I think is something that probably should have been done a while ago. I didn't think about it, but it's a nice buff to him. Huskar Burning Spear duration increase. Huskar's getting buffs because he's not seen play in the pro scene. He was a bit of terror in the pubs recently, but he's still not played in the pro scene. The bonus heal is increased at the low levels. Basically at level 1, it's pretty buffed. Inner Vitality cast range is increased. You can cast it on allies a bit easier. Not a huge buff to him. Basically just a small buff to early Inner Vitality, small buff to late Inner Vitality, and small buff to Burning Spear damage, actually. So he's a little scarier. This honestly terrifies me, because I think Huskar is really annoying to play against sometimes. Invoker getting some big nerfs. Forged Spirit's armor is reduced. It means they are much, much easier to kill. You can trade with them and possibly kill them. The attack range is reduced at level 4, which I think is pretty fair. The EMP is buffed. The burn is increased to scale better at late game, which is good because late game EMP actually doesn't do that much when everybody has like 1200 mana and there's 3 arcane boots. The delay is now down to a solid 2.6 at all levels. That means the amount of time it takes for the EMP to blow up. And this is really important because EMP used to just always hit people, even if they were tornadoed. So like a couple years ago, what you would do is you drop EMP and you tornado people, and as they're in the air or shortly after they would fall, the EMP would go off and it would drain their mana. It was really easy to land the EMP combo. And then people thought that Quaswex was too good. It was when Invoker's damage is too high. So they nerfed EMP so that the EMP would not drain you if you're tornadoed. So it made that harder to land. You'd have to time it right. And also they reduced his base damage, which made Invoker kind of suck mid. And then Exort has been popular lately for whatever reason. Forge Spirit has been really popular, and that's why Invoker's played again. But regardless, basically EMP is difficult to land because as you level up EMP, the duration it takes to blow up changes. So if it changes and your tornado duration changes, it's really hard to get used to the combo. So people just like gave up on EMP tornado because it's hard to land. But if the EMP is always 2.6 seconds and you know about what time your Wex is going to be in the air, it's going to be much easier to land, especially in the early levels. It's a full 1.1 second less time that EMP will be in the air, so it's going to be much easier to land. I think this is good. I like EMP Wex or Quas Wex Invokers. They're really annoying to play against, but I like playing that playstyle myself, so I think this is a nice buff. I think it's needed. It's basically nerfing the Invoker that everybody plays and making more popular, or at least making better EMP, which I think is good. Alacrity mana cost is reduced, and Ghostwalk is pretty buffed here. The movement speed is changed. Ghostwalk actually reduces your movement speed if you don't have much Wex, but now if you have a lot of Wex, it actually gives you movement speed, which is pretty cool actually. You could use this to get to fights faster. It's on a 60-second cooldown though, so if you do use this to get to fights, you won't be able to use it to escape from. But you could also chase people down quite easily, like really easily, especially if you have a lot of Wex levels, because now you're slowing them and you're really fast. You could actually run around pretty easily and slow everybody in a fight. It's pretty cool. It's basically a big buff to Wex Invokers. Buff to Wex, nerf to Forge Spirits. Jakiro getting some changes. God, I thought this patch was small. So Jakiro Ice Path damage rescaled to 50 at all levels. Liquid Fire DPS increased, better by 5 at level 1. I should pull Jakiro up. I looked at this the other day when I looked at the patch changes, but let me just pull them up really quick because I want to talk about all the numbers and really detailed things. Liquid Fire lasts for 5 seconds. So instead of doing 50 damage at level 1, it now does 30, 60, 75 damage. That's pretty good for a level 1 skill. And keep in mind, you can cast this whenever you want now. Dual Breath Burn and Slow Duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds. So when Dual Breath DPS does 5 damage at level 1, it previously did 20 damage plus... I don't know if this is updated for the new patch. I'm guessing it's not. I don't think it is. It used to do 70, 90... It used to do 95 damage at level 1. Dual Breath now did. Now it still does the 35 times 2 for the 2 breaths. That's 70 damage. But now it does 16 burn damage for 5 seconds. For ease of math, we're just going to say this is 15. But 15 times 5 is the same. What is it? 90 or whatever it does. It's 30, 60, 75. So it's 75 plus 70. So level 1 Dual Breath now does like 145 damage or 150 damage. It does 150 damage for a level 1 nuke. That's AoE. That's really good. That's really good. And think about what Jakiro does at level 3. If you have 1 point in each skill, you do 100 damage, 150 with Dual Breath, you do 50 with Ice Path, that's 200, and Liquid Fire does 75, I think it was. That's 275 damage at level 3. That is really good nuke damage. I dare say Jakiro could very easily come back into the meta because of this. Ice Path, I think, is going to be left maybe at level 1 because the damage is good there. The duration is kind of sucky, but the nuke damage that Jakiro can provide is really solid, all without mana. With mana relevance, he doesn't need mana boosts to necessarily do this. He's kind of like a weak Lina, but good before that. Like he's kind of like Crystal Maiden in a lot of ways. He has a lot of nukes early. I would love to see him be played more. I would love to play him more in games. I think it's pretty cool. Dual Breath damage interval improved from every 1 second to every 0.5 seconds. This doesn't mean that it doubles his damage. This means that it has a better chance to cancel bottle and regen and all that stuff. Dual Breath attack speed slow increased from 20 to 30. That's... Wait. Removed initial impact damage from Dual Breath. Well, shit. All my math is wrong now. Total damage on Dual Breath is now rescaled from 90 to... Okay. Well... Everything I just said was slightly wrong. I really wish I read this earlier. The 35 times 2 thing I was talking about before is gone. So it literally just does burn damage now. Alright, this is less good than I thought it was. My mistake. Total damage from Dual Breath is now rescaled. So it does actually, it's a nerf to damage at level 1. It's better at level 4, slightly. But it is damage over time. So it's Dual Breath is basically all damage over time skill. It slows attack speed by a bit more. It does more interval damage, so it hurts regens and things like that, or interrupts. So now he does a lot less damage than I thought. He does 80 for Dual Breath, he does 75 for Liquid Fire, and he does 50 for Ice Path. So that is 80 plus 75, which is 155 if I'm not mistaken, plus 50. He still does 205 damage at level 3. That's not bad at all. It really isn't. It's not a ton, but it's not bad. I think people should get Liquid Fire at least one level in the early levels, because 75 damage for a skill plus your right click is actually really good. I think he's still playable. He's not as OP as I just said he was, but it's still okay. So keep that in mind. But I would go 1-1-1 build on him right now. Possibly this doubles. Is more than doubles actually. I would maybe go 2-1. I would either get 2. I think getting two dual breath is really good. I guess it's not good. It's the same as it was before. I would probably go 1-1-1 and then get a second dual breath, maybe max dual breath. I'm not entirely sure though. Probably I would do that because Liquid Fire doesn't scale very well. I would probably go 4-1-1 with an ulti on Jakiro and then max Ice Path, I think. I'm not sure. That's probably how I would play Jakiro now. Juggernaut Blade Fairy cooldown reduced slightly, a little bit better at late game basically. Keeper of the Light mana leak stun duration increased, so Keeper of the Light pretty big buffs at level 4 actually. 3-second stun is massive. And that's, I don't know what the cooldown on that is, but it's not huge. I think it's less than 20 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. Oops, that's Necro Light. I want the other light. Nope, not Leshrac. Man, all these light heroes look the same. You know what I mean, guys? Ezalor mana leak cooldown is 16 seconds. So it's a pretty big cooldown, but it does make a pretty good stun. That's like a roar. That's pretty good. Doesn't do damage, but Legion Commander Moment of Courage now only procs 1 extra lifesteal attack. Sometimes it would attack twice or more. So this is a good change. The buff grace period increase. This means if you get attacked, you basically have up to 1 second to attack back. You get 1 lifesteal attack, but it's good. This basically is just a nice little buff. Man, I need to finish my video soon. The answer almost here. Oh my god. Moment of Courage cooldown rescaled. Cooldown reduced. So this means there's a bigger chance of it proccing because it's off cooldown less, and also the buff grace period is more. So that means if you happen to not be attacking for a little period of time, there's a chance you'll still get it off. So it's a nice little, it's a consistency buff to Moment of Courage basically, which is good. Leshrac getting some buffs to Lightning Storm, or it's a slight adjustment. Basically, it does slightly less damage at level 4, but the cooldown is reduced by a pretty big margin, and the mana cost, most importantly, is reduced. This means you could pretty easily play Leshrac more as a ranged nuker. If you don't want to get Edict, you could. You could go stun Lightning, you stun, you Lightning, you sit back for 4 seconds, and you Lightning again. It's a lot of nuke damage if you add this up, and it's, at least in the early level, it's a lot safer way to throw Lightning. If you're not playing a tanky Leshrac, you could go stun Lightning and safely throw Lightning without having to go in melee range and use your ulti, basically. It's an easier way to expend your mana if you're squishy. Lina, Dragon Slave, initial and final. Lina, I think I said Lina. Lina, Dragon Slave, final initial AoE is increased. So the final AoE is increased, the initial is the same. Small buff there. Fiery Soul duration is buffed. Movement speed is also buffed. Lion Aghanim Scepter now causes Finger of Death to hit units within 200 AoE of the primary target. I still don't think Lion's going to get played, but this could allow people to play him mid more often and go Eggs. Eggs Lion is actually very good. I think it's the way that you should play him now, but it's just not popular. Lone Druid, Spirit Bearers, and Tangle is no longer an orb effect, which means that you can do like Desolator on Lone Druid. You could get a Diffusal Blade if you really want to. Not recommended, but it's... really don't get a Diffuse Blade because the bear doesn't get agility, but it's something you can do. Wolves' fade time is decreased by a pretty big margin. The level 3 Lycans now have invisibility, the wolves that is, and level 4s now have a passive ability that gives them 15 HP regen. Interesting. That's pretty cool. So it allows them to basically hit and run a lot more, which could make him a lot better in laning. Once Lycan gets level 3, they have invis, and once they hit level 4, they have regen, which means they can definitely hit and run. Magnus base intelligence increased by 2. God, I need to finish this. I'm like terrified they're gonna like get here and I'm gonna have to like turn off the video. Mana shield damage absorption increased, so it's better at all levels, means Medusa will be more tanky. Meepo's ulti is now at 3, 10, 17, so he gets his second Meepo at level 3 now. It now passively reduces your revive timer as well. This is a pretty big buff because you get to level 25 really fast as Meepo, which means that when you finally die, you start being dead for a really long time. So this is a nice buff to Meepo. Morphling, you can now cast an attack in waveform. He's basically getting buffed back to what he was in the past around TI2, I believe. He's still, what is the difference? Morph is still really mana intensive. He's basically almost as good as he was before, but this, like, the nerfs kind of went the wrong way, I think. I think he needed to be Morph needed to be nerfed heavily right after TI2, but he got nerfed across the board. He got nerfed to Morph, he got nerfed to attacking and casting while in waveform. He got, which was basically, I mean, he had a lot of abusive things, but I think this needed to be back in, honestly. Maybe not, but waveform AoE was nerfed. His base damage was nerfed. His mana cost for Morph was nerfed. I think the Morph was his most OP ability by far. That's what needed to be nerfed, not necessarily all this other stuff. So he basically got heavily over nerfed, and now he's slowly getting buffed back to where he was. I think Morph needs to stay where it is. It needs to be mana expensive to be able to morph your stats, but I think being able to cast an attack in waveform is fine. Wrath of Nature mana cost increased by a slight amount. This is a very, very small nerf. It's not going to affect Nature's Prophet play. We think that this nerf was a little too slight-handed. It needed to be more extreme. Necrophos, Death Pulse now hits units in Fog War. This is good. Crippling Fear, Night Mischance increased by 10%. So it's better against carries. Cast range of Impale now matches the travel range. This is a buff to Nyx Assassin. I kind of wish Nyx Assassin got a nerf maybe to like HP regen or something like that, because he's already being played in the pro scene and he looks like he might see a huge swing really soon. So I'm not entirely happy he was unbuffed, or that he was buffed slightly. Ogre Magi, Unrefined Fire Blast mana cost changed from 400 to 60% of your current mana. You can always cast a spell even if you have 100 mana remaining. The spell only costs 60 mana. I don't think this is going to change anything because nobody plays Ogre Magi, number one. And number two, nobody's going to build an Aghanims on Ogre Magi. No one's going to play. Maybe people will play Ogre Magi mid. It's possible. That's the only way I see this being useful. Basically, if there's a mana drainer, you can still cast your Unrefined Fire Blast no matter what, which is kind of cool. But it's very situational, and I don't think it's enough to see the hero C play. Degen Aura Stickiness increased from 1 second to 2 seconds. It means it's kind of like the Frost thing. If they leave your AoE, it's going to last for 2 seconds. So by default, auras are 0.5 seconds. So this is pretty good for Omni Knight. Pretty annoying for his Degen Aura. Astral Imprisonment cast range is reduced. A slight nerf for OD, offensively at least, especially for ganking the lanes. Invisible Heroes now trigger Blur. The delay reduced by slight amounts. This means you can predict your opponents a bit better with Blur. Sonic Wave Scepter cooldown rescaled from 170-40 to just 40. I think this means that Aghanims on Queen of Pain early is a lot more potential. Has a lot more potential. If you want to get Aghs, you will have a 40-second cooldown. You will go somewhere, you will gank the lane, you will cast your ulti, and you'll go heal, and you'll go do it again. In the past, grabbing Aghs was really only useful once you hit level 16, where the cooldown was lower, because that's why you wanted to get it. The damage was increased, but the cooldown being lower is really good. So I think getting Aghs first item as Queen of Pain is definitely something you could do if you want to. It's kind of similar to getting a Dagon, but you still get good stats out of it. So I think if you're really far ahead, an Aghs on Quap is something you could do in pubs. Generally, Blitz said that he thinks Sheepstick is still going to be by far the best item option, but it's an opportunity. You can go Aghs if you want to. Ricky's base HP regen is increased to 1.5. Sandstorm Radius is consistent now at 525. Big Radius buff here. Shadow Demon Poison stacks increased. I don't think this is going to make much of a difference. Shadow Shaman, it could for mid, but nobody plays him that way. Shadow Shaman Shackle Duration buffed. This is good. They nerfed the Mass Serpent Wards on Roshan because that was OP as hell. You could go into Roshan at level 6. Roshan, you could ward trap him and right click him, and he would literally be running at you, and he wouldn't even attack the wards. And you could basically level 1 Roshan. Well, you could solo Roshan at level 6 no matter what items you had. I did in a pub game the other day. It's super broken. I felt bad. I really felt bad. You can't do it anymore though. Silencer Global Silence cooldown reduced from 140 to 130. Skywrath Mage Mystic Flare damage increased to be better at mid and late game. Slaughter Bash damage increased by a pretty huge amount. 100 physical damage at late game is quite a bit. That's a big crit, basically. Slark Pounce damage reduced. It's basically nerfed by a little bit. Level 4, his magic combo is a little lower. I think this is good because Slark's a little too good. And his ulti cooldown is reduced by 5. I'm happy with this. His burst damage is a little too good at 8 or 9. I think this is good. Sniper take aim range bonus increased, so Sniper is better at all levels for range. Spirit Breaker, you now gain vision over your target while you're casting Nether Strike. This is good because it was too easy to juke. Spirit Breakers, he definitely got over-nerfed. He was OP and then he got over-nerfed. Storm Spirit base movement speed reduced by 5. Blitz was very sad to read this. It's not a huge nerf, but it is a very small nerf that could affect things. Sven's base armor is increased by 3. Warcry cooldown is reduced at level 4. Base armor by 3, by the way. That's a huge survivability increase. Really, really big. That's like every armor is like 6% physical resistance. If you only take physical resistance, a point of armor gives you like 6% more HP. So this means that you're going to have an extra 18% physical resistance. That's pretty sick. Terrablade Sunder cooldown is reduced at all levels. Pretty massive. It no longer is blocked by magic immunity. That means if you Sunder... I don't know. I don't understand how this works, so I won't comment on it. And the reflection cast range increased. So you can cast that a bit farther away now. That's the slow, by the way. Tidehunter Kraken Shell debuff threshold reduced from 600 damage to scaling. This is good for late game Tidehunters, but I don't think this is going to affect the hero at all. I could hypothetically make him see more play as a farming or solo role, but I'm not sure if he'll be played that way. The Kraken Shell damage block has been buffed again as well, by the way. It does 10 up to 40. I think this makes him a much better offlaner. Well, especially this skill makes him a better offlaner. This buff doesn't help that much except for like late game. Like your Tidehunter has to be level 16 basically, or level 14 for this to matter. So I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Timbersaw gets a 3 base strength nerf. That's 57 HP, which is pretty big. That's usually about a right click or 2. So he's a little easier to gank. He's still going to be played from this, in my opinion. We might see item builds change, and we might see him a little bit less off lane. At least you won't see him as much 1v3, but I think he's still very good. Tinker Aghanim Scepter doubles laser cast range and heat-seeking missile count. This means you can shoot 4 missiles. This is pretty cool. I could definitely see this getting picked up sometimes. You still have to buy Blink or Force. You still have to buy Soul Ring. You still have to buy Boots of Travel. And it also doesn't have an active. But for lower level players, this is going to be great. For lower level Tinker players that are just getting used to the hero, I really recommend getting Eggs. I think it's a great item. I think this is a really cool thing, and it's also going to pull people away from just going March spam and fight games. They'll be more likely to go laser and heat-seeking missile with Eggs, which I think is really fun. I think that's the more fun way to play and play against the hero. It's not fun to play against March spam. Tree and Protector Overgrowth AoE increase. Nature's Guy's cast range increased by a lot. This is pretty cool. Nice buff to Treant. Troll Fervor max stacks rescaled to 4, and the attack speed per stack is rescaled from 20 to this. I think this is good. This basically means that you can get 1 level of Fervor, and it's pretty darn good. It allows you to really DPS down a hero without needing 4 skill points. So it basically allows you to go 4-4-1 skill build, rather than previously where I would go 1-4-4, and then people now wanted to go like 4-4-1 with the old Fervor, which isn't very good. I don't know. I think this is a nice adjustment that allows them to go 4-4-1 a little easier. Tusk's secondary units by the Snowball now take the same impact damage as the primary unit, which is good. They didn't quite explain this right, but basically the stun damage is increased, and also the damage is increased, by the way. So it does 200 damage now at level 4. The 50% threshold mechanic has gone from Whirlwind Punch, and it now hits for 3.5 damage at all levels. This means you don't have to wait until they're below half HP before you ulti them. You can basically snowball in, you can punch them immediately, and then you can throw the ice shards. No confusion, no waiting to get stunned by your opponent. You don't have to like time everything perfectly. You just roll in and you punch that guy. So it's going to make Tusk a lot easier to play. Undying Soul Rip cooldown at level 4 is down to 6 seconds, which is really good. Vengeful Spirit Wave of Terror armor debuff is buffed by 1. Venomancer base damage is reduced by 1, which means he won't play mid as much. Base HP regen is nerfed to 0.25, so slight nerfs to Veno. He's still going to see play as a support, most likely, but he does a little bit less damage, and that's the weakness to the hero, is that in the first couple levels, his scale is amazing, but his damage output is not very good. Visage's base movement speed is reduced by 5. Gravechill mana cost is more at level 1, so this basically just forces you to get Soul Assumption at level 1, pretty much at all levels now. Familiar's small buff to them, but it was basically just like a cleanup. It's not a big issue. Warlock Upheaval max duration increased. Focus Fire mana cost is decreased, which is good. Maledict AoE is increased. Paralyzing Cask can bounce to units in Fog of War. This didn't happen before, but basically if you'd throw a cask and your opponents would run into the fog, it would hit once and it would stop. But now it's going to bounce. And that's a really big buff for ganking Witch Doctor. In the past, you couldn't really gank with Witch Doctor, because if they go into fog, the cast doesn't bounce. But now, if you're chasing after a team and you can throw a cask, it can bounce and you can catch a lot of heroes. You could possibly see Witch Doctors pick up Blink Daggers or something like that. That's probably a little over-presumptuous of me, but like, cask is a lot better for ganking in teamfights now, I promise. You're going to see cask be a lot more useful now. I honestly think Witch Doctor is good enough to play in the pro scene, personally. I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that, but I think he's pretty good. Wraith King Reincarnation slows more, does more slow, and Arc Lightning cast range is increased. So very small buffs to these guys. I don't think that's going to make a difference. That's all the hero changes. God, I thought this was a small patch. I was so wrong. Items, Animal Courier, Ground Courier gives less bounty, which I think is fair because it's easier to kill. Arcane Boots mana cost is increased by 10, so that means it gives you 10 less mana every time you use it on your hero. So it's worse for your hero. It's the same for allies, which means it's still going to be a really good support item. It's going to be a little bit less good on a mid or core item, or core heroes. So some heroes are going to be a little upset about this. Blitz was sad. Battlefield Cleave AoE is increased by a small amount, not important. Blink Dagger no longer has a mana cost. It's a really cool buff. This basically means that you can very easily buy Blink Dagger on supports now without needing Arcane Boots first, or mids, or strength heroes. There's a lot of heroes now that you can buy Blink Dagger on and have no issues with mana. Like a Beastmaster with Blink Dagger does not have to buy a wand or a drums or treads or arcane boots to compensate. He can literally run around with a magic stick, a bottle, and a blink dagger, and he can gank to his heart's content with full mana capabilities. 75 mana on a strength hero is a big margin when you only have 300 mana and you need to do your full combo. So this is a really cool buff to blink dagger. I think this is good. Blink dagger's been getting buff after buff, and I think it's completely fine. The item could be seen as OP, but it's a very high skill cap item, so rewarding high skill cap items I think is not a bad thing. I said the opposite of that when talking about Earth Spirit, but that's because that guy was too overpowered. It wasn't necessarily because of the high skill cap usefulness interaction. So I think this is really good. A lot of supports can definitely buy Blink Dagger now before getting something like Arcane Boots. Like Rubik, for example, could probably very easily get away with getting Blink Dagger before Arcane Boots now. Bottle can now be used on your allies by holding down the control key. This is really cool. This allows you to give people bottle charges without transferring the bottle and them sitting there, oh, I got my bottle, press the bottle, wait, press the bottle, wait, give back. That takes like 10 seconds. Now you can do it a lot easier. That's really cool. You can use this in battles, actually. That's really cool. I don't know what the range is, probably melee, but can only be used to regenerate allies, not transfer runes. Yeah, that's what I figured. You can't like give your ally a haste rune. That would be cheap. Diffusal Blade agility bonus increase, so it's a little bit better at both levels. Very minor buff to Diffusal Blade. Still probably won't see use. It's probably just around the numbers while making it slightly better because Diffusal Blade isn't used that much. It could be used on Terrorblade. Think about it. Yeah, basically all this agility will transfer to Terrorblade's damage and illusions, so keep that in mind. Except for the actual feedback. The mana burn won't apply to his ranged illusions, only his melees. Drum of Endurance number of charges increased by 5, and the recipe cost increased. Drum is still picked up a lot, but the charge increase I think is pretty cool. The cost increase I think is pretty needed. Like, the item is still very good. I don't build it as much as I used to, but it's still a pretty good item. Usually I like utility items on my supports instead, but for cores I think this is a necessary nerf because the item is still built a lot. Yule Scepter Cyclone cooldown reduced slightly. Force Staff travel speed is reduced. There's a 33% nerf to the amount of time it takes to Force Staff, so takes a little longer to get your allies out of danger or your opponents out of position, basically. Ironwood Branch gold cost is reduced by 3 to make it easy. Mask of Madness lifesteal is increased by 3%. Mjolnir changes the area type that is used on static charge hit units. It used to do like a cone, but now it does an AoE of the same distance. That's a huge AoE. This is actually a really big buff to Mjolnir, in my opinion. If you can get this item and put it on a tanky hero, like a Dragon Knight in teamfights, this could actually do some serious amount of damage. So I would love to see Mjolnir be used more. I think it will be because of this buff. This, like, you will see a big impact. It's a 900 AoE. That's like your whole screen. Everything is going to get hit by like 200 magic damage. If the Mjolnir proc goes off, like, nobody ever cares about that buff when they buy Mjolnir. Nobody ever talks about it. Ever. And people are going to talk about it now. I guarantee someone's going to buy Mjolnir. They're going to put it on their Lone Druid Bear or their Dragon Knight or their Tanky Hero, and it is going to do at least one nuke during a team fight, and it's going to be good. Promise. Necro's nerfed 200 gold at level 3, which is good. The item is still really good. And this is, like, you're giving away a lot of gold if you use this to backdoor. That's 400 gold on last hits. That's a lot. That's a kill. That is a kill, guys. You have to be careful with feeding those now. Their armor is also reduced, so they're even easier to kill, and the cooldown is also increased. I think these nerfs for Necro is really good. Honestly, Necro push strats are pretty cheesy. They are useful against some heroes like Bristleback and other, like, Death Prophet and stuff like that, but I think it still has its use for that. Observer Ward can be transferred to allies for 1 charge. I think, honestly, every offlane hero in pub games from now on should say, pull me a ward, and your supports will give him 1 ward. He'll go put a ward down to block a camp or check for jungle next to him, and his offlane's going to go way better. I think this is a really, really nice buff, not only to pro games, but also pubs as well. I really like this change a lot, honestly. I like it a lot. It's really good. You can do a sentries too. That's down below. Radiance attack damage bonus increased. That's the aura. Wait, no, I'm sorry. That's your right click. That's your right click gives 5 more damage. Fine buff, doesn't do that much. Refresher Orb, recipe cost reduced by 75, that's fine. Ring of Aquila, agility bonus is buffed from 6 to 9. This basically means that your Wraith Band gets 3 free agility if you combine them. So this is good on a lot of agility heroes like Potom, for example. Rod of Atos, bonus HP is 3. God. Rod of Atos is even better now. That's so much HP. That is so much HP. It's a really good support item, honestly. I dare say I might want to start rushing this. It's not that much HP to rush it, but it's pretty good. Sanjin Yasha is buffed, the slow duration is increased by 1, and the slowness is increased to 32%. So this item is starting to get really good on a lot of heroes. I know Corey really likes it on Shadow Fiend, because it does give him a slow. It's not always the best choice on Shadow Fiend, but if we have a bit of a weak heavy lineup, or weak disable lineup, the slow can actually be very nice. Sentry Ward can be pooled, there it is. Shadow Amulet fade time is improved down to 1.5 seconds. This started as 2.7 seconds, by the way. You can use this to dodge stuns. There's a lot of uses for this. You can also cast it on allies, which makes it actually pretty useful. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of support uses now. Supports could pick this up. Like if somebody's getting rocketed by Gyrocopter, you can cast Shadow Amulet on them, and by the time the rocket gets there, you're going to be invisible and you're going to dodge the rocket, for example. So Shadow Amulet will have some uses now. You could use it to, like, if I'm a squishy support versus a lifestealer, and I already have a Ghost Scepter, but I want to be extra annoying, and I don't want to get a Halberd, I could get Shadow Amulet. If I get open wounds, I'll just cast Shadow Amulet. Within 1.5 seconds, I'll go invisible. If he doesn't have detection, then I can't be killed. That's pretty cool. I could definitely see this item being used by supports now. It maybe could have been used here, but with this buff, surely people are going to buy it more just for the amulet, which I think is a nice change because nobody used it before. Arctic Blast range is increased, and the speed is also increased. This is going to make it a lot, like in Dota 1, Shiva's Guard was really good. Like the range exploded. It really came out fast. People didn't dodge it very often. It feels really slow now, honestly. I think it's just because the camera is like slightly zoomed out in Dota 2 compared to Dota 1, but the range is, the speed increase is good and the range increase is good. Like Shiva's, I think, like Shiva's has been getting buffed, but I think the AoE expander was a little too low. Like especially if you're running away, it like almost never hit your opponents, for example. So like the speed, this is movement speed now basically. That way if you run away from your opponents, it'll at least be static essentially in relation to your where you used to be. Smoke of Deceit duration is reduced slightly. Teleport scrolls stacking delay decreased. That means you can more easily all TP to the same tower, which I think is good because sometimes it's kind of frustrating that this is like this, in my opinion, when you're trying to TP support. At least, all right, this is good. Basically, the first 2 TPs are still like really high, which is good because it prevents people from just double TPing and like killing a guy. But the later ones are much, much lower, which means that like if there's a really long team fight, whoever has the TP advantage by towers, whoever is the defender's advantage basically doesn't have to wait for like an 8-second TP, which is ridiculous. It's like it was too counterproductive at those late levels. I think this is a really, really nice buff to teleport scrolls. I think this is very well thought out. Max targeting range increased is how far you can teleport from a tower. Interesting. That's pretty cool. So that'll help people for, while defending or ganking, basically. Or going aggressive. I think this is a nice little buff as well. It's not a huge distance, but it'll make a difference. Tranquil Boots. Movement speed increased from 85 to 90, and the HP regen increased from 10 to 12. Both of these are while Tranquil Boots is not disabled. Okay, that makes sense. So basically it gives you more HP regen while you're out of combat, which is a nice change because that means that the amount of time it takes to get back up to full is going to be reduced. I think Tranquil Boots are already really good right now, honestly. The movement speed is better for ganking. Like the best reason to buy Tranquil Boots, in my opinion, as a support, especially if you're playing Crystal Maiden, the movement speed is really good for initiating because you're not going to take damage until you initiate, most likely, and she's really slow. But most importantly, you get 4 armor out of it. And it's a really easy way to, like I already talked about armor previously, but 4 points of armor increases your survivability by like 24%. All right, they're here. I got to close the video. Tranquil Boots are good. Veil of Discord is good. I have to leave. Thanks for watching. That was my patch video. Go follow us on Twitter. I'm going to have videos out soon. I'll see you guys later. All right, goodbye.